Hey, what's up, everybody? Tim Castleman here, and welcome to another edition of the rarely recorded, frequently, infrequently released To Drink Tim podcast. Ironically, we actually are here drinking. We're drinking some Lone Star.
Right.
That's right. We're just, we're pretending we're back in college. It's good. It's Red Cup night.
That's right.
Here at Blue Light. And my special guest, the one, the only, the amazingly talented Grady Spencer.
Thank you, sir.
We are here celebrating 2015.
That's right.
Got the New Year's show at Blue Light, and really excited to check that out. They have been nice enough to let me go in, sit in sound check, do this interview before we go, have a great night, and hopefully remember some of it for tomorrow.
Right. So, yeah, that's right.
So first, man, I read your article, the article actually done on Lubbock Online. I had no idea. Paducah.
That's right.
The big city of Paducah.
Huge city.
I was going to impress you because I actually have done some work in Paducah back when I did insurance. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, Crackers Restaurant. I was like, no, Crackers isn't there. That's Clarendon or Childress, one of the big cities.
No, was it Crackers? I think it was. The cafe?
It? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Crackers.
Yeah, it was like the $7 all you can eat, like chicken fried steak and all that.
Was it.
Yeah, we were just like, okay, we're going on Friday, all you can eat chicken fried day? Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So how the hell do you start in Paducah and then make your way to Lubbock and then ultimately to Fort Worth? So tell me that story.
Yeah, I went to high school and I think I applied to 3 schools and it was UT, maybe TCU, maybe it was Abilene Christian, I can't remember, and then Tech. And my dad lived in Lubbock. He was a Tech grad, and so it kind of all just fell into place. I got a really nice scholarship for nerd stuff, ACT scores and things like that.
Oh, okay.
And,
I was like, is that a degree?
I was really good at the calculator.
Right.
But so things just kind of fell into place, and moved to Lubbock, graduated from Tech, and I actually ended up sticking around for a little bit, moved to Austin for a little bit, and then came back to Lubbock for several years.
So when did you graduate from Tech? What year was that?
I graduated 2006.
2006.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. All right. So, I'm trying to think if that was close to me. I got out of the military 2002, 2004-ish. Yeah, about that time.
Yeah.
So you what was your degree in?
Psychology.
Psychology. Okay. All right. How's that helping in the music business?
I've yet to use it at all professionally or people always say, analyze me. And
right.
I think I've forgotten 99% of what I learned there, but it was fun.
Yeah. Hey, cool. It's a good time and it's always good to fall back on. That's why I tell people. Yeah. It's like they can never take that degree away from you, but I'm like you. I don't use it. Yeah.
What was yours in?
Business of applied science of bachelor education. Get me the hell out of here. Whatever it was. Like, I literally, this is a no shitter. I went to Tech for 1 hour. Mm-hmm. That's how long I was there. I was in the military. Turned in all my paperwork, did all that stuff. I got my acceptance letter from Tech. Hey, come on down. So I was married at the time. We moved my family down. I moved with my parents. If you ever want to just ruin a relationship, take you and your wife, move them back at home. Yeah. Have a curfew. Sure. Dinner time. All the stuff you loved. Right.
The whole thing,
yeah. Twin beds, no sleeping in the same. Like we're married. Like
Sure.
And I show up to the counselor and she's like, "Oh, let's do a degree audit." And she goes, "Okay, we have like 120 hours." And I'm like, "Oh no, ma'am, I've got this piece of paperwork from you." And she goes, "Oh, let me explain. Texas Tech accepts all your credits. The School of Business at Texas Tech accepts none of them."
Oh, no.
And that's where your degree is. No. Dude, and I'd quit my job. I mean, I'd short of getting your name tattooed on my chest.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So I went over to Wayland and they took pity on me and they were like, "You were in the military? We'll give you a semester off." And I was like, "I like you."
Nice. Yeah. So, I would have done that as well.
So you get your degree. You hang out here for how many years after that?
I get foggy, but I think I was here for almost a year, just hanging out, working. I think I was a substitute teacher for a little bit. And then I moved to Austin and I thought, I'm going to go join this scene and make it down there. Well, musically, I was nowhere near ready. It wasn't time. But I was doing it anyways. And I loved it down there. I still love Austin, but a good friend of mine who still lived here in Lubbock, his name was Lee Tyler Williams, and he had a band, and he got killed in a car wreck. And so that was pretty gnarly. And so his band wanted to keep playing. And so after the funeral, I was driving back to Austin, and a guy named Darren Timmons was the bass player, called me and said, "Hey, we'd really like to keep going if you're willing to kind of come in and play with us." And I didn't even think twice. So as soon as I got home, packed up my stuff, and 2 days later, I was back in Lubbock.
Holy cow.
And yeah, so it was an awesome time. Like, it was awesome to come back and play with those guys. It was never really the same though. Like, it was always his band, and I was just honored to be a part of it for a little while. So that's cool.
That's crazy. And we got way ahead of ourselves.
Sure.
Because we didn't even talk about like when music became a thing.
Yeah.
So when what was the first instrument, or like when do you first remember being like, I'm kind of into this music thing?
I was 17, maybe even 18. And I was okay, so backing up into Paducah, like the only radio station it was 96.3, I think, and it was just top 40 country, old small town country radio station. Right. And that's all I could hear. Every now and then we would get like a pop station out of Abilene, but the wind had to be blowing just right or whatever. And so up until 17, 18, I had never heard the outside world.
That's all you heard.
I was like in a bubble, you know? And so obviously I was never very inspired. I never really wanted to play. And then a guy from school gave me Jack Johnson's Brushfire Fairy Tales, which is so far from what I do now. But at the time I was like, whoa, this is a whole nother.
This is totally different.
Yeah. Right. This is completely different than what I'm hearing on Podunk country radio station.
Right.
And I was like, this is really cool. And I think my dad actually had a guitar, and so I started trying to learn the chords and look stuff up and started learning a couple of his songs. And so 17, 18, on into tech, into college, I just started, trying to grow on the guitar itself, and eventually grew to start writing songs. And then I guess it was my sophomore, junior year, I met the guy that got killed, Lee Tyler Williams. And he was a songwriter as well. He was at Tech, kind of a friend of a friend type deal. And we were at a party, and he was playing some music, and I was playing some songs. We're like, hey, I like you. You're doing good stuff. And so we grew to be really good friends. And so we played music, from till I was 2021 all the way until he died. And so he always had his band, and I kind of did my thing, and it was a lot of fun.
Wow! So you guys had kind of dual paths. You were both doing your thing, but
he was probably a little bit, actually, like, in the path of a musician. He was probably a couple steps ahead of me. Like, his band was a little more put together. I opened for him a couple times, and he was I would say definitely a better songwriter than me, like a great songwriter. And we still play his songs today. We'll probably play a couple of them tonight, actually. So, he was just a great dude. And I'm hoping, side note, to, record an album someday that's only his stuff, because he was just a great writer.
That's crazy.
And so we played music. He was a great friend, and tragically it was his time. And so moved back and started playing with those guys. So,
and what was the name of his band?
It was called Rhythm Creek.
Okay,
was the name of his band. So it was Lee Tyler Williams, but his band was Rhythm Creek.
Okay, so. And when you came into the fold, did you guys keep the name, or?
We did for a little bit, and rightfully so. His mom, very respectfully, just hey, would y'all mind, just for my own sake, call him something different. And I never thought half a second. I was like, of course.
Yeah.
So, it was same drummer, bass player, and lead guitar player. And we played that way. I would say less than a year. And then just life circumstances happening. It ended up just being the bass player and me, left. And so we ended up moving to Gatesville, which is where all those guys were from.
Right.
And so I ended up living down there for a little bit. And I was all over the place.
So guitar was it? Like that was the only instrument? It's not like, I started on the piano or anything like that. It's been guitar since day one.
And to my dismay, my music literacy is so subpar. Like, if you were to put my music literacy I'm like reading or something, it's like remedial,
right?
And so, like, I'm sure it's extremely frustrating when people try to collaborate or work with me, because I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just like, I know the chords and stuff like that, but because that's just how I learned. And so, I wish I learned piano, because that it's a whole theory thing, but all the notes are laid out there and you get a much better understanding of music theory and all of that. But
and what's crazy to me is, you say, oh, well, I listened to country pretty much my whole life. But whenever I hear you play, I always feel like there's a strong blues and rock influence. So did that come kind of when you went to college and If the Wind Blew a certain direction?
Yeah. I had one girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, who gave me it was the Black Keys Rubber Factory.
Okay.
Which was I guess this is their third album. And that, even more than the Jack Johnson stuff, just completely exploded my mind. Like, I was like, whoa, what is this? And, Dan Auerbach, the songwriter for them, is all of his main influences are the old blues, Son House and old school Delta blues stuff. And so those guys were a big game changer. Like, when I heard that, I was like, okay, now I'm really, really hooked.
Wow. So the Black Keys, that was a big influence for you, that album.
Yeah.
Right.
So from then on, man, it was kind of a mix of, old country, top 40 country mixed with Jack Johnson stuff. And then a lot of Black Keys was where kind of the soup that was boiling.
So who was your big country influences?
I mean, at that time on the radio, it was like George Strait and like, Alan Jackson. And
Dolly Parton. I remember as a kid, like Kenny Rogers, Randy Travis, Dolly Parton. Just like rotate them out every
and you
hour.
Think about it, like it was like, it was at the time top 40 country. That was what was on the radio. But looking back now at what top 40 country is, that's gold.
Right.
It's like a gold mine.
Well, I think that's why Sturgill Simpson has kind of found a big niche, because whenever I listen to him, I feel like I'm, 8 years old again in the car. It's like, man, that's the country my parents listened to when I grew up.
Oh, he's tapped right into it.
Right. Yeah. And it's good to see that's a resurgent over, Georgia County Line and, pickup trucks and, boots and whatever, jeans and lifted. Yeah. Just like, I'm like, really? That's what passes for music. But,
sure.
From what I've read, basically they stopped making money in pop. So they just were like, hey, but you have the skill of writing songs. We'll just take this over to country and kind of blow it up.
Yep. Yeah. It's the same principles. Really, really deep hooks and pretty shallow, lyrics.
Right.
And
well, like Sturgill's thing, when you listen to it, especially a couple times, if you really listen to the lyrics, like they're deep.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking earlier about Uncle Lucius. Like when I listen to his lyrics, like there's stories behind those. It's not just bubblegum pop or surface level stuff. Like you really think about it. Even your stuff I'll listen to a couple times and I'll be like, oh, that's an interesting line.
Sure.
Like there was one of the songs I was listening to of yours today. It was talking about how money, it was like green or gold. And it was like, oh, okay. But it's a story. It's a visual telling. It's not, look at my new pickup truck.
Yeah. That line, of people get so caught up in money of like, they don't care whether it's, a gold coin or a dollar bill. That's all they care about, And, that line was kind of some frustration about that of like, it's not just about the money most of the time.
Right.
Sometimes it is, but you can't get caught up on it.
So. Right. Well, you can't make that your primary driver, especially I got to think in this business. For sure.
No, it'd be futile.
So you had the band, you guys kind of went your separate ways. Where were you in the world and what did you decide to kind of do after that?
Yeah. So the bass player and I went to Gatesville and I lived there for almost 2 years. I worked as a carpenter, and then we found two other guys to play as a full band. And, we would just play locally there in Gatesville. And, for the city of Gatesville, we kind of got a little bit of a name, and it was a lot of fun. And, they were all kind of older guys. They'd been playing a lot longer than I had. And it was really a good learning experience of like, okay, this is how you load in as a band. It wasn't necessarily that we were functioning as a band, but I got to see, a load in, a sound check, what all that kind of looks like.
Did you guys do any touring outside the Gatesville area?
No,
not really.
No, I think the furthest we toured was maybe somebody's barn, like 10 miles out or something,
right.
Like it was very much just a Gatesville thing. But it was a blast. And so
while this is all going on, I'm curious, like, are you thinking like, hey, this is what I want to do for a living? Or are you thinking this is just kind of a fun side thing? Like what's your motivation at this point?
I think at that time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, I was, extremely off-centered, just as in general in life. You know, at that point I hadn't really come to grips with the death of my friend, and you know, like while I was in his hometown, seeing his mom, his dad on a regular basis, and so I don't think I'd really processed that, and so.
And how old were you at this time?
I was 22.
Oh man, that's a tough. That's a tough time anyway. Yeah.
So I was old enough to drink, and so that kind of was what we were doing. I mean, we were drinking pretty heavily and playing music, and I was working as a carpenter and making more money than I'd ever made, which was not that much.
Right.
But at the time, you know, I was like, oh, this is great. You know, I got a wad of cash, and we'll go play for a bar tab, and you know, I think I really turned to alcohol. And so the music side was just something to do. And I think I was using it as like, you know, look at me, look what I can do. And I appreciated it when people would pay attention, but I think it was for the wrong reasons of like, I just wanted attention, and
right.
I was grasping, you know, for substance.
But you got to think, I mean, nobody wants to do a lot of jobs that require, I mean, you know, you got to learn stuff. You got to put yourself out there. You got to own yourself, you know, there's reasons behind that you may not be aware of until years later. You
sure.
know? And I've been guilty of that, where you think you're doing one thing, and then like years later, you're like, that's why I was doing it. Like, I totally got it now.
Oh, I was learning so much without even realizing it.
Right.
You know, almost to the point where like, I was the party guy, like I didn't take a guitar in, but somehow a guitar always got put in my hands at parties and stuff.
Right.
And so now I know how to position myself at a party. So like nobody asked me to like jump in the center of everybody's attention and like play music.
Right.
Cause then, you know, I was like, I was all about it.
And all I know is these Oasis tunes. Yeah. You guys heard
and I love it. And everybody be singing along and it'd be great. But now like how to deal with extremely drunk people in a closed setting, you know, there were all kinds of lessons I learned, and it was great times. And I do look back and I really enjoy and appreciate, you know, the times I spent there. But it definitely was a growing up period, because I was very much a boy.
Yeah, well, you're 22, man. Like, that's the thing. People, like, I know when I was a kid, I thought, oh, man, by your 20s, you got it all figured out. And I really don't feel like, personally, like, until my 30s, like, stuff started clicking.
Yeah.
And I'm 36, and I still am moving those big pieces that I'm sure at 18, I thought by now I'd be set. You know? I'd just be on a locked path, just going down the road. And now it's like, you realize, like, life is ever changing. Yeah. And what you do now, even 3 to 5 years from now, you may not be doing that. And it's just, I think, at least for me, that was a big revelation.
Sure. Yeah. I completely agree. Like, as a 22-year-old, if you'd have told me that, you know, I'd be where I am, I probably wouldn't have been happy about it then. But at this moment, like, I'm the happiest guy in the world.
Right.
You know, I consider myself so lucky. It's not even funny. So yeah, it's just funny. That's life. And we're just all dumb kids at certain points. You're
just like, I want to go party now. I'm like, Friday night, you want to get in bed? Just watch HGTV?
Yeah, dude,
hell yeah.
That's it, man.
Yeah, let's just watch some House Hunters International, get a pizza. Like, this is the life. Yeah.
It's the best.
So you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
So you're doing this, you're having a great time, you're partying it up, you're living the life like 22-year-olds do.
Right.
What was the next thing? Were you out going solo? Like, what made you change from just, okay, I'm going to start this, or I'm going to be part of this band that's kind of staying local, to, hey, I want to put my name out there as the lead singer and maybe form my own band?
Sure. That kind of just started fizzling out. I was working as a custom carpenter for houses, and that market kind of dried up, so work was slowing down. And so
I'm just going to guess about 2008.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah, I mean, it just falls out.
That's when the economy tanked.
Yeah,
you're right.
I mean, I was a carpenter for a year and a half, and I think a year and a quarter of that we were working on one guy's house. Like, it was this guy, this really rich man, and this huge house. And then we started doing all these other small ones, and then it just petered away to nothing, it was a real literal illustration of what was going on, you know, with the economy and stuff. And so it kind of dried up. I decided, okay, it's time to kind of move on. And I actually moved in with my grandparents in Memphis, Tennessee for a little while, and didn't really play music that much. I was writing, but, you know, completely on my own, mostly in a room, just hanging out, writing. Loved that city. It was a good time.
Now, when you say writing, are you writing songs? Are you doing poems? Or are you just kind of journaling?
Songs.
Or
Yeah. Always songs. I mean, I wish, because I was an English minor, and I always appreciate short stories. I like short stories a lot, prose. I'm not a big novel guy, but I always am in awe of people that can, really interesting, funny, stories in 2 or 3 pages.
Right.
That's what I like, and so I try to take that to songwriting. And so I wish I would have been doing that, but it was always songs. And so I think some of those songs I wrote, they made it through. A lot of them were complete garbage. Like if I were to hear them now, in fact, I've got them on my computer. They're cringeworthy, really, really bad.
Right. Yeah.
But again, that was just the growth process. And so I loved my time there, wrote songs, decided I wanted to move back to Lubbock. My brother was here going to tech. And so moved back in with him and started kind of playing again. And that's where I eventually got tied in with the Blue Light, did the songwriter thing. And
for those of you guys who don't know, they have a singer-songwriter competition that they do, I think, twice a year, I think it is. And that's actually, I was reading that Lubbock Online story, and that's where they were saying you got your start. That's where you kind of got connected with people.
Yeah. So from there, I met Ryan Summers. He was actually a judge at one of those contests. He eventually ended up being my lead guitar player for the band that would grow. Found a drummer, David McDonald. He still lives here in town. I can't remember if that was a Craigslist. It might have been a Craigslist thing, dude. I'm all about Craigslist.
We got to talk about your Craigslist.
I know. We'll get there. But
it's on their list.
I think it might have been Craigslist actually, but I can't remember how. But I met him through some off way, and I can't remember how exactly we met. But a really expressive drummer. He does a lot of Irish drumming and traditional folk drumming, and I'd never met anybody like that. So he kind of blew my mind. And then eventually met a guy named Jeff Lish, who was the bass player. And so those guys together, we kind of turned to the Griswolds, and we ended up recording. And so that was the real beginning of like the shows that people see today. If you come to a show, that was the beginning of what you see now.
So what made you want to write songs? And more importantly, you need another beer.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab one of those. Thanks. Yeah,
this is a 2 Drink 10 podcast.
That's
for a
right.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No problem. In fact, I'm gonna move them closer.
Yeah, get them over within arm's reach.
Yeah, right.
There you go. Yeah. I think originally I wanted attention. I wanted to take things that I heard and really appreciated. I don't even think I appreciated for the art. I just thought it was cool, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to be the cool guy, and so that's what I did, and that's kind of what I wrote about. It was like, if you were to ask some of my early albums lyrically what some of those meanings were, they were completely just word scrambles in my mind. Like there's no meaning really. There's not a lot of substance.
But it meant something to you at the time.
Yeah, and the words came together in a way that I'm like, okay, it could mean this or could mean that, but there wasn't a whole lot of rock to stand on underneath them or whatever.
Right.
And so I think it was attention for a really long time. And then as I've matured and kind of my life has changed focus, it's much more about creating something that is like what's inside of me and making something bigger than myself. And hopefully writing songs that people can relate to and painting a picture of the way I see the world and how I perceive it. And hopefully other people, kind of see it and feel it the same way. And so that's the way I'm going about it now. But at the time it was very surface level, like I want people to look at me play music, and so this is what I'm going to do.
Right. Well, and I think a lot of people do that. I think, you have to, like comedians, they all talk about how they get inspired by their favorite, and they go out and they go, I just stole his act, because to get started. And then and I have the same thing. And I know you do. What you're saying is, if you go back and look at your stuff you did even probably 5 years ago, you're like, oh my God, how did I ever put that to paper? But you just probably didn't know any better.
Right.
So it's just like, man, this is the best I can do.
Sure.
I'm just going to do what I can.
Yeah.
And then over time, just like anything, you refine your skills and your process.
Sure. And I think as I get older, when I was writing the songs for the first couple of albums, I was checking music blogs every day. My musical net was very wide, probably too wide. I was taking in too much, and maybe not too much, but that's just what I was doing. I was listening to a lot of different stuff, and it kind of all just jumbled together. Whereas I don't know if I'm just getting crotchety and old, or I just don't have time, but I latch on to maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 bands a year.
Right.
And those people really blow my mind. They reach down deeper than anybody else, and inspire me to want to create that kind of stuff, And so I want to write something that I'm like, okay, I want it to sound something like this. And whereas when I was younger, it's just like gobble it in. And this is cool. This is what I want to do. But it was just, I spread myself too thin.
So music influence wise, or just trying to be too much or be a little bit to everybody?
I think the influence, whenever I was taking in too much, the influences were coming from too many directions. And so therefore I was trying to create in too many directions,
Right.
I was going forward, I was going backwards, sideways. Whereas now I feel like I have a little bit more of a clear goal in mind. And so hopefully it's just straightforward.
Do you feel like maybe some of that was you just trying to find, I don't want to say your voice, but basically find your groove or kind of where you belong?
Sure. Yeah. I think it was my ears and my mind trying to find, like, which one of these really grabs a hold of you,
right?
Because I was listening to and I still do listen to a lot of music, but not as much. Like, I was listening to hip hop one day, and then the next day it was Jack Johnson, and then maybe it was Merle Haggard, and then Black Keys. It was pretty scattered. And then I would try to write a song, and then all of these things are trying to come out at the same time.
How do I put the rap into this? Where does the rap go?
Where would Merle Haggard and the Wu-Tang Clan? Where does that line
if they had a kid, where would this go? Right. Yeah. Right.
And so it's really hard, but I still appreciate every single one of those, but I don't listen to that really anymore. I listen to pretty specific things, and because that's just what sounds good to me now, and that's what makes me feel things.
Well, people, like Blues Traveler is a band that when I was a teenager, that influenced me. Don't worry about it. Yeah. I mean, but now it's like I hear their new stuff and I'm like, yeah, pass. Like it's not. But at the time, I think music, a lot like relationships. You have moments where it's like, man, this band, like, it just speaks to me, and then 5 years later, you're just like, what did I ever see? You know? And I just think that's a process, like you said, of trying to fill your brain up and then kind of filter and distill it down into what it is for you. So the first band was Grace and the Griswolds. Is that right?
The Griswolds, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you guys released an album.
We did, yeah. Okay. So I put out an album before them.
Yes, you did.
The Seminole Optimist Club.
In 2010, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was just me and the drummer, David McDonald, at the time. And then I had a buddy come in and play bass. I think that was Joel Smith, which is a Lubbock guy, kind of a legend type dude.
Did you find him on Craigslist?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
Ooh.
he was actually the bass player in one of my favorite bands in college, which was Celis and the Loose Grip. Have you ever heard of them?
I have not.
Dude, I'll show you some stuff later because they were awesome. They blew my mind. And I ended up working with almost everybody in that band eventually down the line, but Joel played bass on it and killed it. But yeah, at that time it was basically just me, this drummer that I'd found from God knows where, probably Craigslist. I can't really remember. I wish I could, but I think it was Craigslist, honestly. And so we put that out. then the next album, I had all those guys. It was Jeff Lish, Ryan Summers, and David. And it was a solid lineup. And so we went in and did it. So
you put out your own album, just you, 2010.
Right.
And then a year later, you put it out with the band. What made you kind of switch from maybe being more of a solo act to more of, hey, I want to have a band?
I think I could feel that I wanted more meat to the songs. And at that time, I didn't really know a lot of, like in Lubbock, I didn't know a lot of musicians. And so the fact that I knew enough people that I thought were really good to get in a room and be willing to stay in a room with me and play, I was like, okay, this is the thing now. If they're willing to stick around, like, we're going to be a band. And so it just filled the sound out, and it was more of a cohesive type unit moving forward that I hadn't had up to that point.
So how was it collaboration wise? Because I'm guessing there's got to be a little bit of adjustment from, hey, these are my songs, this is how I want it laid out, you do this, that, to, well, what do you think? I'm
thinking back of every person that's ever played in a band that I've put together, and I've never had anybody in a band that I didn't trust their artistic visions. And so usually I would come at them with a complete song, and then they would put their interpretations for their respective parts. So like the drummer would say, okay, I'm feeling this, and guitar, bass, all that. And, 90% of the time, the people that I've had in my band, I trust them and it sounds good to me. And we just roll with it. Every now and then somebody will come up with something. I'm like, maybe this or, maybe that. But I've been extremely lucky to have guys that I can trust and just say, what do you hear? Play it. We'll practice it. If it works, then we'll use it. If not, let's try something else. And so when I write songs, I rarely write them thinking, okay, this is how I want the full band to sound with it. Every now and then I'll think about a beat or something that would sound good, but I usually trust the guys that I have with me. So
I'm always curious on the creative process for you. Is it a lyric? Is it a thought? Like how does a song, if you had to think about it, like how does a song usually start for you? Is it just something that you just write down somewhere? Like what's your process? Are you an old school pen and paper guy? Are you type them out or just talk it out? Or
it's always guitar first, and it'll either start with like a riff or a chord progression, and then I'll skeetily D over the top of it of like, just basically find syllable breakups and where I think kind of the cadence of the lyrics will go, and then find a couple words that fit in that cadence, and then from those words or phrase or whatever, I kind of build off of that. And I don't think I've ever been able to say, okay, I want to write a song about buying ice cream or, or about a cotton field, or I just can't do it. It didn't work that way. I could, but I don't think it would be believable. I think people would be able to see through it.
More forced, right?
Yeah. So it's always guitar first, and then, mumbo jumbo, and then kind of figure out original words of phrase, and then you build from there. So,
wow. And that's the process. Yeah.
Every time. Yeah.
And I'm curious, if you're like a lot of people I talk to, do you ever try to just completely reinvent that process? Or are you at this point where you're like, no, these are the steps I need to go through? Yeah,
it's a lot of times I've got one really bad, crappy guitar that's actually a buddy of mine's that he's let me borrow. He's in the Air Force, and I just play around, and if something sounds new to me, and I'm like, oh, that's not anything that I have, then it just kind of happens. Somewhere down the road, if I'm just at a complete block and they're not coming anymore, which that's a huge possibility and a fear, I think, of any writer, I'll change it up someday. But I've never written with anyone else. I mean, so I don't even know how that would go.
Well, no, I just think it's great that you trust your process. Because I'm guilty of, okay, I have the process. I know the process works. Let's just totally tear that shit down and start all over and rebuild the machine. And you're like, well, I don't know why. It's like, do you not trust the process?
Sure.
Like, I always have to ask people, like, am I just the only one that does that, or are there other people out there?
I think if the public, demands me to come with more lyrically intense songs, then maybe someday I'll have to change it. But for now, if it's not broke, I'm just going to keep rolling with it until there's just complete revolt. And then
So 2012, you guys released the album as the band, and then take me through that. Do you guys tour? Do you guys what happens after you release that album?
I think there's never really been a lot of touring in the general sense of the word. Like, we were a Lubbock band. We played regionally very little, but it was mostly Lubbock shows. Played as much as we possibly could. We would book. There were weeks where we would play 3-4 times a week around town.
Really? Wow.
And it was just a lot. And 50% of the songs might have been originals, maybe even 25% of the time. A lot of covers, and it was a blast, man. It was a lot of fun. But it was not really doing anything. We weren't creating to create. We were all pretty young.
Right.
And so we were just having a good time, and it was fun. I was young. I wasn't tired. It didn't wear me out. I could do it. So we did do it.
Right.
And so, we played a ton, and, but eventually, you can only play, take the money and run so many times before it's like, okay, I'm over this,
Right.
And
want to start maybe doing some more original stuff.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. But again, that was a chapter where I look back and it was a blast. It wasn't very fruitful professionally wise, but I got my chops to where we could play 3 to 4 hour sets. So even to this day, if somebody comes to me for a private deal and is like, hey, I'm going to pay you this much money, but I need you to play for, maybe 2.5, maybe 3 hours. Sure. That's not a problem.
Which is practically unheard of. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because normally it's like, we got 45 or 90. What do you want?
Yeah.
Right.
And so the fact that we got that under our belts, and, we played for several years, where a lot of times we're just background or just entertainment for a bunch of drunk fools, it was a blast, but it was also a huge deal because I don't remember a lot of those cover songs, but the few of them have made it through. Friends in Low Places, Garth Brooks, that kills every time we play it. Like, it'll slay a room. You wait, you wait till 3/4 till the end of the night when everybody's just real hammered. You play that place goes up in flames.
It's nuts. You played it last time at Blue Light, and what surprised me was it was a bunch of young kids. It surprised me how many of them knew that song and were singing along. And you're right. It brought everybody to the dance floor, and it like re-energized the room.
Right.
And I was just more surprised, like, you kids know this song?
Sure.
Like, I'm the old crotchety get off my lawn guy. I was like,
somebody should do an academic study on that song, because it really has spanned generations.
It's
like
nuts.
grandpas, the grandsons, like everybody knows.
Yeah. When I was a kid, Garth Brooks was coming up. So it's hilarious that people do that.
Yeah. So that was a fun chapter. And I've got probably 10 of those songs, cover songs that we do every now and then, just because they're fun and people love them. So,
and maybe, like you say, it wasn't maybe the most financially fruitful, but you got your chops. I mean, you kind of got taken to school there. You learned the ins and outs of the business on a safe and small level that you guys were comfortable doing. There's nothing wrong.
There was zero risk.
Right.
I mean, Jeff, the bass player, was in school. David had a successful business. I never really knew what he did, but
in the import export industry,
exactly.
Right?
Who knows?
Well, you always have new cars every day. What's going on here? Yeah,
he's a successful guy. He's still here in town, but
please don't sue me.
No joke. Yeah. And Ryan was like Mr. Guitar Center repair guy. Like, everybody knew Ryan,
right?
So, nothing was really riding on it, so it was a blast. And you would make a little bit of money, and sometimes we didn't make any money, and nobody really was the worse for the wear. So it was good.
So how did that band kind of transition from obviously that band to Grady Spencer and the Work? How did that?
It reached a point to where there was nowhere in Lubbock that we hadn't played that was on my bucket list.
Gotcha.
So Blue Light was the creme de la creme. That was what I was always shooting for. And with the Monday night songwriter deal, that's where it kind of all began. That's where I started meeting people. And then we started getting a Tuesday night or something. I listened to the Flatland Cavalry thing.
Right.
They got a Tuesday night. It was either Tuesday or Wednesday. And then, eventually we got to be the people that would open for like Uncle Lucius. We opened for them a couple times. Got to open for Adam Hood. Like we were kind of starting to become the go-to guys to be the openers. Then we started getting our own Thursday, Friday night shows.
Right.
And so it reached a point to where, like, you know, in my mind at the time, and probably still this day, like Friday, Saturday night, the Blue Light is the pinnacle in Lubbock. Like you can't get any higher.
Right.
You know, I know some people would differ with that, but in my mind, that's what it was. And it reached the point to where we were getting Friday and Saturdays. I'm like, okay, you know, now what? And I didn't have the marketing wherewithal to say, okay, let's start booking. We traveled a little bit, you know, but small towns and nothing, like we never went to Fort Worth or Dallas or anything like that. And so
was that just like you say, the marketing, or was it just no real desire?
No,
or?
I think we would have wanted to, but at that point I was still pretty young. I was 27, 28 by that time. And yeah, it wasn't happening, you know, kind of deal. So by that time I had gotten married. So my wife and I, she is a physical therapist. She graduated physical therapy school from Tech. And, yeah, we decided let's go try Fort Worth. And, she had done a residency out there and, some training, some school stuff.
Friends, family there, or just kind of
No. My dad at that point lived in Dallas, and he still lives in Dallas. So that was the closest, but she really liked Fort Worth. I'd visited her when we were dating a few times, and what little I'd been there, I liked it a lot. And so we just decided, yeah, let's go try it. And so, it was not, I don't think it was an awkward thing, but it was just like the Griswolds were going to be done because I'm moving, and so it's going to be a new chapter. And you know, luckily all of those guys have moved on to really successful lives. Summers is the lead player for Mike Ryan, and so he's doing great. Jeff Lish has a great job, and I'm sure David's doing great. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but yeah. So it was personally, for me and my wife, it was time for us to move on and start a new chapter. And so we moved to Fort Worth, and yeah, it literally was starting all over though. I mean, it was back to open mics because nobody knew me because I'd never really traveled that much.
That's crazy to think about, but totally true. I can see that, right?
So, I mean, I had a couple of contacts, but it wasn't the caliber of contacts that were going to be able to get me into good spots from the get-go. And
so you had to earn
yeah. So I mean, it was square one.
Did you ever think during that time, like when you made that move, like I'm kind of done with music, or it's time to be done?
At that point, I knew that I'll never be done with music for the rest of my life. Like, even if I don't ever make another dollar, like I'm always going to be creating.
Right.
Because I'm creating for something bigger.
Right.
And so, like, even if tonight was our last show professionally, like I would be just fine with that, you know? And, so at that point, like it was exciting because it was a square one. And I knew I'm going to be playing music forever. Like, let's see what Fort Worth has to offer.
Right.
And, you know, it took some time. I mean, it took probably a year and a half. And then a guy named Jacob Furr, who has roots in Lubbock, he let me open for him on like a Sunday afternoon songwriter showcase deal at this place called Magnolia Motor Lounge.
Okay. Yep. I know it very well. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And the guy who does the booking there is a guy named Brian Beckman. And he's a pretty influential guy in the Fort Worth music scene because he has the controls to Magnolia Motor Lounge. And so, and you know, long story short, Magnolia Motor Lounge was my new blue light of like, that was my new beginning for this new city. And so from there, it was kind of that was the soil that the seed kind of got planted in.
Right.
And eventually Beckman started letting me open shows, and through, you know, my life in Fort Worth, I started meeting people, musicians, and bringing guys in to form the work. And so, yeah, it was very organic. Like it wasn't like I hit Fort Worth and I'm just like calling people like frantically hoping that something new is going to happen. Like, I found a job that I still have, that I do construction, and the music kind of just did its thing and grew. And it's been great, man.
Was part of the fun of that you maybe had learned a lot the first time around, so you're kind of able to restart, but you're restarting kind of with, lack of a better term, that corporate knowledge, or that, okay, sure, don't do this, do this. This, like, you have a little bit of a roadmap. Granted, it's a new location, but you kind of like, okay, if I do this, I know that eventually it'll kind of lead.
Sure. I mean, and that's a good lesson for any musician, and if any starting musicians are listening to this, like, you've got to pay your dues, and that's all there is to it. And we played a lot of shows, even at Magnolia Motor Lounge, where we were opening for a set low rate. I mean, low, and that was fine because you're getting the confidence of influential booking people,
right?
And two, you're maybe stealing a person or two out of each crowd that might come to your next show,
right?
And it's a big deal, and so you have to really be focused about what you're doing, and but also at the same time. And I think what's been great about Fort Worth is, again, if it had failed and Beckman never gave me any shows, I'd still be creating, and I wasn't putting my life worth in whether or not that I'm going to get a headlining show at Magnolia Motor Lounge on a Friday,
right? So is it then, and is it still now, more of a labor of love? You mentioned the Flatland podcast. Like, one of the things that strikes me about those guys is they're one of the few bands that I've talked to. Well, they have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
They've got their 5-year plan for,
sure,
like, this is it. We're burning the boats. We're going there. With you and talking with you and reading interviews, seems like this is the cherry on top. It's like, I have a great life, sure, and I enjoy doing this. But like you said, even if I never got a paid gig again, I wouldn't stop it. Whereas, and I'm not saying that with them, but
sure,
with them, they would be disappointed because they didn't hit this imaginary goal that they had set.
I've read so many interviews and heard so many musicians say that they're musicians because they're not going to let themselves be anything else.
Right.
If that's what makes you happy in life and that's what you want to do, by all means, I embrace you. Like, I applaud you.
Right.
For me, it's just one part of my life. It's I wouldn't say a small part, but it takes a substantial part, because I think I've been given gifts that I want to share with people, that I have this need to create. But if I never created, I got both my hands chopped off, I'd still be just as happy, because, I've got a wife, I've got a daughter. My life is so good compared to so many people in the world that, like, the music is honestly, the fact that people would pay money to come hear us play something that, my stupid head thought up and wanted to say, I get to drink beer for free and get paid money. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, right.
It's great, but it's not something that I like worship or anything, and like I idolize it. I love my day job. Like, it would be, I'm at this point, and people ask me, like, what's next? Like, what are y'all gonna tour full time or whatever? And we've got a new booking agent who I really, really respect, and he's got a very specific vision. I've got a vision, and we're on the same page. But I'm not gonna sacrifice my family and my wife and my daughter to go play 1 million shows a year if I don't think that it's gonna result in something bigger than my own gratification or money.
Right. Right.
And
so those definitely aren't primary drivers.
No, no. I mean, and I think there's bands that think, okay, I've made it because music's my job. But if your quality of life is really low and you're sad and it's not doing it for you, then you should stop.
Right.
You should go work. If working in a convenience store allows you to be happy, like, go do that. Like,
right.
I'm all about people being happy and enjoying the life that they have. And so I've been extremely lucky to have a day job that I enjoy doing. So if music stopped and I only was a construction worker, I would be fine. If this next album that we're about to record, if it gives us the opportunity for me to stop being a construction worker and I'm just a musician, I'll be stoked as well. Like, it's gonna be a blast either way.
But either way, you're good.
Yeah. And so I know there's a lot of musicians who would probably, you know, shake their finger at me. I'm like, no, it's this, you know, you gotta be driven. But one, I don't think my art works that way. It's not a forced thing. And two, you're setting yourself up for disappointment if it doesn't happen, type of deal.
Well, I don't know about you, but I consider myself not to be a driven person. And then I look at my friends and I go, shit, I'm driven 10 times more than those guys. Yeah. Yeah. All those losers listen to the podcast right now, you know, but the thing I've noticed about goals, you know, it's funny, we're doing this on New Year's. It's like, okay, I'm going to make X number of dollars. And then you do that. And immediately you're like, I'm going to make X. Now I want to make Y and Z. And it's never, and I'm guilty. I'm terribly guilty. You never stop and go, holy crap, like look where I've come from. It's always like full steam ahead. And I know for me that does. It's perpetually you're unhappy because you're always searching for the next brass ring. The second you get it, it's like, all right, well, that one was nice, but I want this bigger one or this one or that one.
Yeah. I mean, it's so true. And I think that's, you know, we talk about all the previous bands I've been in and all the songs I've written before. That's the big difference up until the past couple of years is, you know, I was grasping for very temporary, very unstable worldly things. And I didn't have people that loved me truly or knew me. And I didn't have a beautiful daughter who, like, I see just the whole, like, I don't want to get too mushy, but I see things in a much clearer picture now. And if people don't have some sort of base, that almost like a video game. So like if you reach a level and then you try to get up and then you die, you've got to have that base level that you go back to. You can't go all the way back down to rock bottom because you're just going to be dealing with a life of just crap, really, you know?
Well, like you said, you can't have those wrong people either because if they're with you because of that one thing and that one thing goes away, whether it be money or looks or whatever, it's like, you know, you're done.
Yeah, because I mean, if I base my drive to create music on how many people are in the seats, there's going to be a day, could be tomorrow, it could be 10 years down the road, where people stop coming and stop caring. If that means I stop playing music, I don't think that's going to happen. And I'm extremely happy and lucky that that's the case. Almost to the point of like, I'm just enjoying this current phase because financially, I know you talk a lot about the business side of music and the podcast and stuff, you know, financially at this point, my only responsibility is covering the band's time and making sure they're properly compensated, because this money that I make from music, which is substantially more than I've ever made, you know, for creating music, not to say that's a big number. It's substantially more than zero. You know?
Yeah. No, I saw the Rolls Royce you pulled up.
So it's not like I'm just rolling around and we're sitting in the La Quinta Inn right now. So,
well, damn it, I wasn't going to tell him.
We're not in the Omni.
So, it's West Texas. Four Seasons.
So, but luckily I'm able to make musical decisions and move forward, not because I have to pay my electricity. You know, I do it because I want to do it at this point. There might be, you know, harder times where we have to really tighten up the budget. Maybe all four guys are in one La Quinta room because now that's my source of income. And I'm still going to be happy about that. But at this point, you know, we're not trying to squeeze every penny out. Like, we're trying to get more of a social, you know, organic word of mouth type thing, not necessarily a fiscal growth type deal, because we don't have to, which is really freeing.
Well, it's nice, and it gives you some choices. You know, we were talking about Lincoln Durham earlier. Lincoln, I'm rocking one of your shirts right now, by the way.
Great dude.
Great guy. And he was telling me that he does graphic design on the side, and he's done a bunch of amazing stuff. And he goes, I do that so that I can pick and choose the gigs I want, instead of going, I got to play this for money. And I think ultimately that allows you to be a little bit more in control of your destiny, instead of feeling like, you know, hey, we got this song we want you to sing, and here's $1 million. And, you know, do you want to do the next Ninja Turtles Vanilla Ice? Be like, hell yeah, I do.
Well, if it was $1 million, let's slow down. I mean, if it was $1 million, I'd be like, okay, I'll be the Ninja Turtle guy.
So let's talk about the number. What's the number? I'm going to write a number on this thing.
What will I sell myself for?
One comma money here, right there.
I mean, it's incredibly freeing because we don't have to right now. That day might come, but right now it doesn't have to. Like, as long as I can look my band in the eye and know that I paid them fairly for what they put out on the stage, that's all I really care about right now.
You guys getting ready to go record another album?
Yeah,
right?
in 2 days actually. Sunday.
I was going to say it's coming up. Holy crap!
Yeah, Sunday we're gonna work with actually Papa, who's drumming tonight with Red. Again, Magnolia Motor Lounge guys. So it's Papa Smith, which is a drummer there in Fort Worth, is Ryan Bingham. He used to play with Ryan Bingham.
Okay.
And then Grant, who is Ryan Bingham's front of house guy. And so they're all kind of tied in with the Magnolia Records guys who did Red Shahan's record, Ryan Tharp, who's playing guitar tonight. It all ties together.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they did Honcho, Quaker City Nighthawks. They've put out some really good stuff. And we've got the opportunity to work with them and go in the studio, and we're going to track it, 90% live. So just us in a room with a crap ton of mics and just play the songs and pick the best one type of deal.
See, and that's the thing. It's so frustrating to me as a fan. It's like, I know what goes into making these albums, especially, if you want to go big, and you want to get a publicist and you got to pay, we got to pay this guy $5,000 so that he can get 2 songs on on an AM station. And what amazes me is that more bands, I haven't seen a ton of adapting, I guess. It seems like still it's like, well, we're going to put an album out that no one's going to buy, that everyone's going to stream, that, we're going to leave 50 of them at a show,
Sure.
So, I mean, educate me. What am I missing?
Why go record?
Why an album versus doing what you're doing now, in a live setting, for instance, the Blue Light, and do the same thing, but do it in a venue to where you're playing a gig or you're, and I know bands have live albums, but I just, the need for a physical album or hey, this is our new album. What is the I don't want to say a lot of, what's the process behind that?
Why do it?
Yeah. Why?
Yeah. No, I get it. For me, it's definitely not financial because honestly, this one through music and my day job and my wife's day job, I'm paying for all of it out of my own pocket. And so it's going to take me several years probably to pay myself back.
Right.
Incrementally.
You guys are releasing this, I'm guessing, independently, right?
Yes.
No record label.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what I've done with all of mine. I've never been presented with any deal that thought like it was a good idea, and none of the people that have approached me seem legitimate anyway. So I was like, the distribution of a bigger name would help, but for me, it's a couple of things. One, it's to create, and but for the main thing, I think it's a snapshot of this moment and this incarnation of this band, and what we're creating. There's some albums we were listening to some on the way up here that I think are masterpieces. Texturally, the way that they're recorded. It's very much like a sculpture. So there's, the amps they use, the way that they position the mics, it's a work of art. And I think with this band and the songs that we've got and with the Magnolia guys, I think that all of those things are combining to create something that I think is going to be really tasteful and really, so it's not even something to self-promote, look at us, but kind of is. I hope that we create something that people are like, whoa, this is really good and cool. I want to give this to somebody, I want to tell somebody about this.
You want to create something. And I love your explanation of the snapshot, because when you said that, it was like, oh, that clicks. Hey, here's where we are as a band now.
It's literally like a picture of this time and this incarnation of the band, these songs that I've written and how we play them. Recorded really well, hopefully, if everything goes smoothly, it sound good. And, because my hope, from the business side of things is I'm 31 years old. I have a wife and a kid. I'm not going to go play Bird's Chicken House for $200 because that's one of the 300 shows I'm going to play this year. I'm hoping to create something that catches the ear of somebody who lets me go open for like a House of Blues or something, that says, hey, this album's really good. These songs are okay. Like, I like this.
So in a way, it's still very much is a business card.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Like, I don't want to say I want to ride the coattails, but I think with the songs that we have in our pocket that we're about to record, with the people that we're going to record them with, if I can get them to the right people, I think it can open doors. And that's what I'm hoping for. Because I'm not at the age, and honestly, I don't have a desire to go kill myself, 7/8 of the year. And honestly, I'm not going to do that. And that all falls back to my life.
No, I think touring is a young man's game.
Yeah.
Flatland, Folk Family. Sure. I love those guys. They're in their 20s. It's like, that's the perfect time for you to be in a van with 7 smelly dudes. That's the perfect time for you.
If I had their talent when I was in Gatesville or the first, I would be doing that. Right. But I wouldn't have my wife and my kid, and I would probably be much more miserable. Right. And so, man, I mean, we've all been dealt a hand, and that's, I feel like these songs, like, they just came. Like, I don't feel like I crafted them. Like, like if it was my own doing, I would be writing about ramen noodles or something, like, just, I'm a pretty surface level guy, but for some reason these songs have happened, and people seem to enjoy them, and they pay money to come listen to them. And so I really want to record them, the new ones, and hopefully catch some ears and make some stuff happen. But again, if it doesn't, I'm fine. And there's gonna be more albums. I might not be able to afford a studio. I might be recording it myself, right? Which I enjoy doing too. But
I've got some podcast equipment you can use.
Yeah, man, you got good mics right here. We can record an album right now.
Let's do it. Yeah. As an aside, I'm glad that you explained who Pawpaw was, because when you guys were doing sound checking, you're like, "Does Pawpaw need a mic?" I was thinking, "Is his granddad coming to the show?" And I was like, "Oh, who's Pawpaw?"
I mean, I don't know if Bingham started calling him Pawpaw or what, but everybody knows him as Pawpaw. But it's the Smith brothers. They're kind of the main guys behind Magnolia Motor Lounge owners, and just really nice, genuine dudes, and big parts of the Fort Worth music scene. And so I'm really excited to be working with them. And I mean, they were the first venue to give me a chance in Fort Worth, and it was really all downhill from there.
So for you, you've mentioned this several times, like your need, your desire to create. Where do you, I mean, construction, does that play a part in it? Like, where do you feel like that need is to create new things?
Yeah. Well, it's something that I kind of figured it would eventually get this, but for me, when I met my wife, I started going to church a lot. And so my faith really came into focus. And so I create because I'm
just going to change this thing to a religious podcast. When you and Flatland.
I mean, I was listening to Uncle Lucius thing, and like, I think, I was like, oh, maybe he's not really a church guy that much.
No. First of all, it doesn't bother me at all. My wife is a huge church person. In the military, I worked in a church, so I got to see behind the curtain.
Oh yeah.
So I got to see, unfairly, I got to see the negative side of it, and also, just being candid, like, my parents used to take us to Sunday school based on who had the best snacks that week. So there was no upbringing in the church. So for my wife, it's very natural. Being here in West Texas, like, what do you mean you don't go to church on Sunday? Yeah. So it's come to me later in life, and also for me, it's an independence thing. So I don't need to admit that I'm a fault, or that I'm a sinner, that I can't have my life together, or that I've got these things. So it's tougher for me than other people, but at the same time, it's like, if it does it for you, that's I mean, it does amazing for my wife, and I can see that for her, and I would never want to take that away. It's like when Flatland was like, "Can we talk about that?" I was like, "Of course you can." Like, if that's your inspiration, and like, I follow you on Instagram, maybe to a stalker level, but like, I see you post stuff like that, and I think, man, that's awesome. That's great that your daughter, that your family, and I even remember on one of your posts, you talking about how your wife was really instrumental in kind of bringing you into the faith.
Because I was the same way growing up. Church was really strange. I mean, my parents were divorced, and so my mom would take me to really strange churches, like not like snake churches, but there were people dancing with tambourines. And for a young dude, you know, that was pretty out there.
Right.
And so from, you know, high school years, college, I was a heathen. I mean, wild guy.
Right.
All the way up until when I met my wife.
I mean, you got to have something to repent for. You can't just have an empty list and be like, I'm good. Right. Yeah.
And so, you know, to answer your question about creating at this point, you know, it like you say, what works for me, what I believe is that there's a God that created everything and has a path for me, and I'm not the center of that path. Like, it's not for my own glory. And so I'm creating, and you know, I don't want to say that like the reason that we're succeeding in music is because I'm a Christian or whatever, but I'm creating from something that's deeper than just the surface level of like, I want people to listen to me. And so from here on, and people will hear, you know, if they really listen to it, the next album, pretty much every song, it's right under the surface.
Right.
It's not a church album, which I do with my church every now and then, but I'm creating from themes of that. So this next album there's a line between two types of people, right? There's the guy who wears the business suit, goes to church every Sunday, just doing what he's supposed to, pays his taxes,
right,
does everything right.
Right.
There's the bartender who's out till 4 a.m, smells like cigarette smoke, you know, whatever. The theme and my understanding of my faith is that we're all the same. You know, we're brought together. We're created by the same being, and you know, the South. Yeah, I don't want to preach fire and brimstone, but you know,
you're good.
In my life, the common denominator was one person. You know, who died for us, and so. So for me in my life is like, I want to love everyone the same,
right?
You know, and that, in the construction industry, like I get to meet a lot of people, from CEOs to people who rode a train for 5 days with a gallon of water,
right?
You know, and so for me, it was changing my focus of like, this world is crazy,
right?
And it's a beautiful thing. It's a really broken place, but it's a really awesome thing that we get to see every day. And so for this music that I create, like, I just wanted to talk about that and my experience of like how I see the guy who rode the train for 5 days illegally to the CEO. Like, we're all human beings, and you know, we're all on this world perceiving it, all this, you know, we're getting into Sturgill Simpson stuff here, but you know, like, we're all perceiving it
through our filters
differently,
right?
And like, there's no reason to just, you know, it's weird. There's no reason to hate people. There's no reason to do that, because we're only here for a short time and we should love each other. And so, you know, I try to model my life after one person and love everybody that I can. And so that's what I'm doing. So,
but there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I want to be clear to anyone listening. Like, it's not a religious album, right? Yeah. And if it doesn't do it for you, that's fine. No one's pushing on you, but but that's a driving influence in you. And it would be less authentic for you not to acknowledge that, you know? And,
sure.
And I think that's a great thing, you know?
And that's what I tell people of, like, you know, there's the same people that say, you know, you live in Lubbock, why don't you go to church, are going to be the same people that tell me, well, why are you in the blue light?
Right.
Why are you not playing First Baptist worship hall or something?
Right. And what do you mean you charge money to churches?
Yeah, you know, and so...
Everyone's got their thing. Well, no, it's like, you know, and the other thing I was going to say about the whole church thing is, you know, when I did go to church with my grandmother, it was old Southern Baptist,
sure.
You know, sit down, 60 minutes, here's why you're going to hell, you know, and it was like, well, this isn't fun,
right?
You know,
no,
like,
it's not.
I can't talk, I can't breathe, I can't even, you know.
Yeah, it sucks.
And like, I've gone, you know, I'm a twice-a-year Christian with my wife,
sure.
You know, I get dragged on Christmas, but like, we went to the Christmas Eve service, and I was really blown away by the church, because they were just like, hey, we're doing a tithe and offering. If you're not a member member of this church. You're under no, and that I was like, wow, that's totally different.
Sure.
And like the thing I would say is like churches have really stepped their game. It's like it's a full concert.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, it's
There's
like I'm like, am I at Blue Light or am I at the first?
Well, that's a whole other podcast of like there's weird stuff going on for sure. But when my buddy got killed in the car wreck, dude, I used to have anxiety. The thought of eternity scared the living, piss out of me.
Right.
Like I would lay awake at night, just curl in a ball, and the thought of why did he die, and it was just really dark stuff. And for me, and bringing the world into focus and things kind of making sense, that's what did it for me, and so that's how I function. And it's always funny because just the way that people see the world is the same way that people have experienced churches, and unfortunately a lot of experiences of the fire and brimstone. And luckily, my wife took me to churches that really stress that, it's, we're sitting here drinking beer.
Right.
I say cuss words every now and then. I'm trying to clean it up for my daughter.
Right.
You know what I mean? But our joy is not found in whether or not we drink beer, whether or not we cuss. It's on something much bigger than that. And so that's what I always try to tell people of like, that's why I can play the Blue Light, because it's not, we're never going to be perfect people. Every single person is broken, and whether or not it's in a religious context, everybody's got problems, that's what helps.
And you just never know. Like I saw Josh Weathers at Blue Light, and he was doing a thing, and it played like 4 or 5 songs, and he goes, "Okay, that's the end of the set list. Here's the deal. I think they were trying to raise an orphanage, and he was like, we're short. Like whatever song you want to hear, throw it on a note, and all that money was going there. And they played 2 or 3 church songs that people requested, and they killed it, and everyone loved it. And you just never know what that one moment may be that someone goes, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll give this another shot. I mean, that's how I was on Christmas Eve. I was like, all right, well, I mean, I'm not going to rush back here, but I'm certainly not going to be clawing at the door trying to get out to like maybe in the past.
And so that's. I'm never going to stand up and preach on the Blue Light stage or anywhere, but I'm always, and I encourage people to come, even if they want to debate,
right?
And I'm going to love them the same, and they might even win because I'm not the smartest guy. You know what I mean? But for me, that's what it does. And that's kind of what gives me the drive. And, like I said, I mean, I think the songs are coming from somewhere bigger because, they just appear, like the syllables happen, and it's not a magic show, but it's my perceptions mixed with something else that I believe it comes from. But again, that's what does it for me. I'm always down to talk to people about it. But if people, I'm down to love. I have atheist friends. I have people devil worshiping friends in the music scene. I love them all the same, and that's what I'm about. Like I want to be friends with everybody. So, it's cool. And luckily, it hasn't gotten me in any situations where like, oh, you can't play here because you're Christian, But it's fun, and it gives me something to stand on, and it's cool. So
and that's great, and it does it for you, and that's I mean, ultimately, that's everyone has to do what does it for them, and if that does it for you, great. Like you say, someone who doesn't believe, that's that's fine. You live your life how you want, right?
I'm always down to crack a Lone Star with anybody, like that, because
that sounds like a challenge.
We're all here on this earth. Like we're gonna take an apple burn later together,
right? Yes, so absolutely, we are.
And that's what makes me happy, man. And just because people rule, that's all it is. Like there are some real douchebags in the world,
Right.
But I still try to love them the same. But
well, I think it's also what you focus on.
Yeah,
I am definitely a pessimist, and I'm definitely like like some might go, God damn, it's it's like it's not that big of a deal. And I'm like, it is a big deal. Why? Because I'm yelling. That's why it's a big deal. And she's like, why are you always yelling? I'm like, I have several other octaves I could go here. So to quote the good Bill Burr. All right, so we got heavy. So let's get super. No, we're good. Let's get super light because I know one of us has a show to go do.
Yeah, we're good on time.
So you guys are on a plane. You're flying, just you and the band. Crashes on a desert island.
Yeah.
You got to make a hard choice.
Yeah.
Who's the first one to go?
Ooh, I don't know, man. Well,
For the record, I did ask Kevin from Uncle Lucius. Yeah, he was like,
who are we going to murder to eat for sustenance or
whatever? I mean, it's an open-ended question, right? Yeah.
The guitar player's pretty plump.
Yes.
So like marbling with steaks,
right?
It makes the flavor better,
right? Of course, yeah. Del Frisco fan.
We would probably be cooking Trevor,
right?
Plus, he's the youngest. He's only 21, so his sense of humor is beyond my comprehension.
Right.
He's the Snapchat generation.
Right.
I almost feel like I could be his dad, even though I'm not that old.
Yeah. No, I don't get the Snapchat. Look at this. I'm like, what? Like you willingly did that? Okay.
I feel like his sense of humor would get on my nerves that I would have to murder him myself.
Okay.
After so long.
All right. Well, if Trevor goes disappearing, this podcast is probably going into evidence.
I tried to poison him the last show.
That's right. Yes, you did. Yeah.
But it didn't work. He came back.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. For those of you guys who are like, what? Yeah. He got food poisoning. Apparently, you guys stopped at Subway. He was saying
it wasn't me.
That's what he thought.
Yeah. He ate at Subway, and we played about half the show, and I look over, and the dude looks bad. I'm like, what's going on with this guy?
Well, he was sitting on the stage, and I thought, well, maybe he broke a string. Maybe he's just tuning up. Maybe he's tired. Like maybe he tied. I was like, maybe he tied one on last night, and it just was catching. I've done all that.
Would have been the case.
Yeah.
He was not.
And then he just disappeared. Yeah. He just totally disappeared, and I thought that was. And then I was like,
he apparently went in the van and just started puking everywhere. So it was bad. But he.
Don't ever.
I don't know. Maybe Blake the drummer though, because he's an academic guy. He's a really smart dude, but as far as like building a fort or whatever we need to do, he's not going to help much.
So he's not going to help. He couldn't help with the plans. He's not a laborer.
He's a very scholastic academic barista guy. If there was a espresso machine there, it would be different.
Yeah, right.
He'd be making some killer coffee.
The best coffee every day.
As far as surviving, no, he'd have to go. Be it.
What's the one album that you can't stop listening to right now, or the one band that maybe you mentioned 3 or 4 bands that you kind of had a connection with?
There's so you'll if you listen to these bands that I tell you, and then you hear the album that comes out, you'll hear it directly. I mean, we're borderline ripping off their tones and things like that. But there's a guy named Blake Mills, who's just ridiculous guitar player, and Trevor does a lot of his style comes from him. He put out an album, but he also produced the Alabama Shakes record.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he was kind of the driving force behind that was really, really good. And then there's a band called Bahamas, which is this Canadian guy named Alfie, some long German thing.
Right.
Really, really great music. And then my favorite band that I still listen to is the Wood Brothers. Some guys from Tennessee. Who, I mean, that dude's voice, I'm pretty much ripping straight off. Like people think like I'm doing his songs sometimes.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I'm borderline legally probably infringing on his voice.
Right.
But I think he's great. And so those 3 are always the go-to. And the songs and the production, I think that's going to come through. You'll hear it if people want to see where it came from. It's not far. It's those 3, and so they can do no wrong. And so it's crazy. I mean, people always ask, what Red Dirt people listen to. I don't listen to it that much. Adam Hood, I listen to a lot. I like him a lot. A lot of the old Stoney stuff. I mean, there's a lot of people doing really great stuff in the scene, but I just have to come from way left, a little more liberal side of music to really do it. So yeah, man, that's what I really dig. And, it's good. I always go back to the Black Keys old stuff. I'm with you. Like, you said Blues Traveler and new stuff. The new Black Keys is horrible.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't ever hear this. But
right. Well, thanks, Grady. I mean, yeah. Guess who's getting a kind of advanced copy? Yeah.
Their first 3 to 4 albums. Oh man, they were so good. But yeah, those other ones are good stuff. So
what's the book, movie, show, Netflix binge thing that has like been keeping your attention or has kind of caught your attention recently?
I mean, completely honest, the Making the Murderer. Man.
Oh my God! Isn't that I finished it? Have you finished it?
No.
Okay.
So did you watch it?
Yeah.
I'm on like 6.
No spoiler alerts.
I think I know what happens because I saw on Facebook that Anonymous is getting involved. So that means this dude's still there. But
I'm not. No spoiler alert.
It's so infuriating, dude. Like, how obvious does it?
My wife had to stop watching that show with me. She got so angry. She was like, "I just can't watch it anymore."
How is it possible, man?
Yeah,
I can't. Like, I don't understand is like the appeal process, because if what happens is what I think is happening. Like, why isn't he appealing? Because surely a judge outside of a podunk, whatever, would see clearly they didn't follow the rules, and that judge was weird.
It's crazy. You guys, we're not going to give the spoiler away. You have to watch that on Netflix.
What blows my mind is how fast that show took hold. Like, that's a phenomenon in itself. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like that Serial podcast where it's just it's amazing the stuff that just people, like 2 weeks ago, I had no idea about it. And I just started seeing random Facebook posts like Making Murder, wow. And I'm like, what is this? And I watched it. And honestly, the first episode, I was like, okay, I'll give it one more maybe. Yeah. And before I knew it, I had binge watched the whole thing over a weekend. And I was just like, what just happened?
Yeah. Casey, my wife, and I, every night we got to watch at least one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally, it's like the white, gold, blue, black dress.
Right.
Like, it's just, I don't know what it is about our culture right now, but like, man, once it catches hold, it's like that's all everybody can talk about.
Yeah, and it's there have been very few times when I was watching that show where I could see the other side. Where you know, like there's once or twice I was like, well, maybe, and then you're like, wait, no, like it just
early on you're like, okay, maybe so,
maybe,
but the more it goes, like, dude, what the hell?
Yeah. What is this? Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, the DNA testing thing. That's the thing that just infuriated me. I don't know if you're there yet, but when you get there, you'll be like, what? Now I get where Tim is coming from.
Sure. So what other things would you recommend? What are you binging on?
So that one I loved. There's one called River. That's a very good one that I've been watching a ton of. I meant to mention this at the beginning. I love your shirt.
Yeah, thank you.
Nathaniel Ratcliffe. I'm sure you have seen Austin to Boston.
Yes.
That is
great.
Amazing. That's where I first found out about him and Ben Howard. Yeah. Like, I have been binge listening to both of those.
Have you heard his new album with the full band?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I have that.
I need to add him. We need to go back in time in the podcast and add him to the list.
Okay, so 4 people. Yeah, right.
Because his stuff, when he put out this last album, that was like a game changer. Because, I mean, like Leon Bridges, like the Fort Worth guy, I love him to death. But I think like Nathaniel Rateliff is doing a little bit better in my mind, a little bit.
Yeah.
But Nathaniel Rateliff, like his acoustic, it's heavy, deep stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like a dark beer. Like you can't drink, you can't chug it. Like
if you're having a sad day, do not put that album on.
It is so good.
It's like Counting Crows.
Holy
it's like,
crap,
okay, if it's raining, do not put that album on or keep sharp objects away.
He was one of my Holy Grail shows. And I actually when I bought this shirt, I got to see him like maybe a month ago, maybe a little over a month. My wife bought me tickets for my birthday, and
was he there in Dallas?
Shows. Yeah, he went to Dallas.
Oh, how did I miss that?
Oh, dude. Yeah. I'm telling you, next time he comes to Texas, because that was the first time he'd been to Texas.
Yeah.
And he sold out.
Yeah.
I
bet.
Yeah. And
well, like Ben Howard, I would love to go see him, but I'm like, man, I just know that he's going to be sold out. So it's like you got to get right on that for sure.
That's an amazing documentary, though.
Yeah, it's a great one, and even the bands that I didn't really love, like I go back and listen. Like I think they were called the Staves.
Yeah,
they just had such a great voice. Yeah. Like when they're singing in that cabin.
Yep.
Like I was just like, that's just amazing.
Those harmonies are something I'll never be able to do. So I'm always just in complete awe of people that can do that.
So it's only fitting that we're ringing in 2016 and letting go of 2015. What's your best memory or the thing that stands out in any form or fashion for this past year?
I think I would be remiss to say not my daughter. Like that was just, it was a complete game changer. And she's the only frame of reference as far as baby goes, but everyone says she's been a really difficult baby. People who understand babies,
right?
So apparently she's been really hard,
right? And
my wife's taken way more of a brunt than I have of just waking up and things like that. But I mean, just to see it still blows my mind that something out of two people's bodies.
Right.
I don't want to get too gross.
I made that, right?
But like that makes a human being.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And so to see that little thing grow to like a 1 foot person now that like speaks tiny sentences.
Right.
It's mind blowing. And so to get to see that this year has been awesome. And so, yeah, I mean, that was it. I mean, we played a lot of shows that were absolutely awesome. And those were great too. So, yeah, I think 2016 is going to be an awesome year. It's going to be banging.
That's just crazy. I've got friends. We don't have any kids. We have dogs because we can put them in kennels, and CPS doesn't get called.
Those are expensive.
But every time every time that we do that, it's just crazy to see how much they grow every time. Like not height, but like attitude and personality. And you're like,
man.
Oh, you got your dad's this? Yeah. I've got a friend. Her daughter is Claire, and she's like, this child is driving me mad because this child was exactly like I was. Yeah. When I was growing up. And that's why I don't want to have kids, because I know karma meter's going to swing back. I'm like, no.
Dude. No, well, she's already got my jacked up toes. Like, she has no toenails, so the personality stuff, she's screwed. So
I just love that. Like, no toenails. Yeah. That's the one trait I passed on to my child.
Yeah. It was it's unfortunate, man. She's going to hate me lay down the road with her jacked up toenails, but is what it is, man. Yeah, genetics.
That's it. Yeah. So 2016, you got the new album coming out.
Yep.
What other things are you hoping to either accomplish or hoping that 2016 does or brings? Or
yeah, I'm really excited for the path that we're going. I mean, if we just keep going on this path, we signed with a booking agent named Taylor Hood, who has this agency called Circle H Artists. I think as a whole, if that agency grows the way that I think it can in 2016, I think we're all gonna benefit from it. So it's me, Red, Shahan, who we're playing with tonight, Eric Willis, who's great, Jamie Lynn Wilson, Haley Cole, who's a great songwriter, Jordan York. I almost didn't remember his name, but he's down in San Marcos, I think. And so there's just a lot of talent in that group, and so I'm honored to be a part of it. And Taylor has a really good vision on growing everyone, not for now, like how we can get the most money now, but how can our careers grow 2 years from now. And so if we just keep this path we're going on, I'll be extremely happy, because we're able to play shows, locally, maybe once or twice a month instead of once or twice a week. And so you see much more crowd enthusiasm because you're not playing as much.
Yeah, you're not burning them out, right?
And we're starting to spread our circles slowly but surely, geographically. And so, spread our circle, get into New Mexico, Arkansas, Oklahoma. And other than that, have another kid. That's what we're shooting for. And I think my truck's getting paid off in a few months, so I'm gonna, 2016 is gonna rule,
dude,
man.
It's already rocking for sure.
I'm looking forward. Like I get giddy thinking about this year, and so yeah, man, it's an awesome time, and I'm just enjoying it every second. So it's great.
Awesome, man. So how can people find out about you, your band? Where can they go? And just as importantly, and maybe more, how can they support you and support your music?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Luckily, at this time, I know you're going to scold me, but I forgot the merch tub at my house earlier. Like, I've literally got no merch to sell. I know it makes you so bad as like a marketing guy.
Yeah.
But luckily, like, the reason why is because, we don't really need that. What we do need is people to give us a chance with their ears. And if they enjoy it, tell somebody. And hopefully they'll tell somebody, and then it grows. Because at this time, the merch stuff helps, or buying the album, but that's all just the cherry on top. And so, I've heard people say, it helps when people buy the album, but if you had the choice between 100 people buying your album one time or 10 people really grabbing and becoming true fans and coming to see your shows, pick the 10 fans, because it's gonna be longevity,
right?
For your
and
career.
I talk to a lot of artists that go, I don't really like Spotify for this, that. And I just tell them, I'm like, listen, without Spotify, I'm not checking you out. I can't find you, and then I can't find, ways to be like, okay, well, how can I go see this person? Okay, how can I get them on a pot? It's like that's the thing. It's like I get that you're not making the money up front, but I mean, I know I'm the exception to a lot of people. I'll go to like tonight. If you had your merch stuff, I'd be like, all right, what is it? Here's the money for it. Keep the CD, because I don't need need it. I got coasters at the house. Like I'm good, but I want to support the music. And that's what I think ultimately, fans or musicians are looking for, fans that, love something so much that they're willing to put their time and their effort and be a virtual street team, if you will, and spread the message.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what helps is people just to care, man, because that's the thing is we've played shows where we've made a lot of money for that show, but it wasn't worth it because people didn't give a damn whether you were there or not. Right. We would almost rather take half the money and have an enthusiastic crowd who really cares about what you're doing. And so, I always just tell people, find what you like. If it's not us, that's great, but find something you like and really devote some attention and really enjoy the music that's being made, because it's when you have a whole ocean of surface level fans that you get burnt out, because it's just like the money is fine, but
see, and that's a hard thing for me as a fan, because it's like I want to support the bands that I love and that I enjoy, but it's a weird dynamic being like, I don't know how to properly express it, but it's like, okay, I want to be a fan, but I don't want to say I want to be a super fan, but it's like, I really enjoy you. Like, I want to get you on the podcast. I want to, you're going to do a pledge music thing. Like, it's hard to navigate hey, this guy's a big supporter to, hey, do we need to get security involved?
Right. No. And I've been really lucky that I don't have those situations, but I try to do the best that I can to fuel people's interest. And so, we're opening a little run at the end of January with Green River Ordinance and Sean McConnell. We're going on like a little 4-city run. We've got some cards made. I recorded a little acoustic EP that we're literally giving away for free through Noise Trade. And all we're asking is for people's email addresses. And they give us their email address. They can have I think it's 5 or 6 songs that I did by myself. And, it's not like Nashville studio quality, but it's something that I created. I'm willing to give it to you for free. All we ask is your email address. Next time we come through your city, one email. Hey, we're going to be here. Come check us out.
That's super smart.
And so that's what we're doing, because that run, we're not going to make any money. Like, it's probably going to cost us to do it. But if I can give out 1,000 of those cards, half of them do that. We've got 500 email addresses, and we're trying to be smart about it but not pester people. And so hopefully we get 500 people who really enjoy what we're doing and appreciate that. We're not a bunch of crap heads just out here, just like dicking around. Like, we're here to create something and hopefully you enjoy it.
And create amazing music that people can stream, they can purchase, they can see you live.
Yeah.
What's the website that they can go to find out about your tours, your album releases, all that good stuff?
It's GradySpencer.com. I have my own Twitter, personal Twitter. It's much more strange than the band Twitter. There's Grady Spencer in the Work on Twitter. It's more official. I usually tweet about like organic suckers and candy and weird things. So if you're into organic, I don't even eat organic, but my wife got this organic suckers that completely blew my mind the other day. So like, that's all I can think about right now.
Well, we'll put links below the podcast so everyone can do that.
Yeah, but GradySpencer.com, all the tour dates are on there. We're hoping to get more pictures, bio, and all that stuff. If people care to check it out. It's awesome.
Dude, this has been phenomenal.
It's been great, man. I feel like it's been way too long.
No, it probably hasn't been as long as we think it has been. Yeah. But even if it's been twice as long, it's still been awesome to be able to do this. It's a once-in-a-life opportunity.
Dude, I appreciate you persevering, man. This took, I don't know, people who are listening to this is about the third or fourth time that we've tried to do it, and it finally happens.
Well, if this was the first band one, I'd be pissed off. Now I'm just like, oh, it only took 4 times.
Yeah,
like, man, this is easy for sure.
Well, next time when I start my podcast, I'll have you on mine, and I'll interview you about your.
That'll be good. I'll be super
stuff.
Difficult and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so. you'll like make me have to rent a room in the Omni.
Yeah.
With the spread and everything.
3 stars or above. I just can't. I can't be seen in those.
This is good, man. Well, I really do appreciate you having me.
Dude, you're awesome. Cheers to that, and here's to a happy New Year, my friend.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.